Hello, everybody. This is Chris Berry. It's nice to be with you here at the 49th annual Santa Barbara Old Time Fiddlers Convention. Sorry we can't be all together in person. Hopefully we will be next year, but at least we can get together virtually and have a workshop on old time guitar and a lot of other great stuff today. This workshop, as I said, old time guitar, we're going to be learning, if you don't know it already, some of you might, we're going to learn a new tuning on the guitar, open D tuning. There's a number of tunings on the guitar, not quite as many as there are on the banjo. We're going to learn one of them, and we're going to learn two songs in that tuning. And one of them is very, very simple to learn, and the other one is a little more complicated. So we've got something for beginners and people who are more advanced. And I think the folks who are more advanced will probably enjoy the beginner's tune as well. So we'll get started. And the first thing we're going to do, you'll hear and see that I am in standard tuning right now, and we're going to change tunings. I'm tuned pretty much to concert pitch. I checked my tuner a little bit ago, and this way you'll know how to get into the tuning from standard tuning. Let me talk for just a moment about what open tuning is. Open tuning means that your open strings are tuned to generally a major chord, sometimes minor, but generally a major chord, so that when you strum across, instead of hearing this, which is not unpleasant, but it's certainly not a major chord, that you get the equivalent of something like this, like an E chord. In fact, this tuning, open D tuning, is also sometimes open E tuning. Sometimes people will tune their strings up. So if you tune your strings up, which we're not going to do, but just for the sake of argument, if you tuned your strings up so that it was like you're fretting this chord without fretting, you'd have to tune the fifth string up 2 frets, the fourth string up 2 frets, and the third string up 1 fret, and then you'd have an open E chord. Tuning up like that sometimes is not the best thing for your guitar neck and your strings. Depends on the type of guitar that you have. So generally speaking, instead of tuning those strings up, we tune the other ones down to produce open D tuning. It's like an E chord, but a step flat. So let me show you how to get into it. The notes, first of all, right now we're E, A, D, G, B, E, standard guitar tuning. And what we're going to head for is D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. That's from 6th to 1st string. D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. And the easiest way to get there, you can use a tuner, and you can certainly check against the tuner. But just to do it checking against the guitar, the easiest thing to do, you start, play your D string, your 4th string, and you're going to tune the 6th string down to D, which is a pretty common thing to do. You match it 1 octave below, like this. And sometimes you have to bring it down a little below the note and bring it back up. That sounds pretty close to me. Now you're going to do the same thing with the 1st string. You're going to bring that down to D as well. So match it 1 octave above the 4th string. Sounds pretty good to me. We'll have to make some adjustments once everything is in place. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to tune your 2nd string, which is now at B. You're going to tune that down to A, so you match that with the open 5th string an octave higher. Always play the string while you're tuning it, so you know you're going in the right direction. And the last one is we have to take the 3rd string and tune it down 1 fret to F sharp from G, and that you usually need to check against another string, but let me get it there first. So once you get it in the ballpark, which you can hear there, check it against the 4th fret of the 4th string, and against the, if you play the 3rd fret of the 3rd string against the open 2nd string, one of them's off. Sometimes it's not the one you think it is. course, you can always check it against the tuner. Which I may do in a second. And it takes things a bit to settle in when you make a big change to the tuning. So just be prepared for that. I am going to check that against the tuner, so it's not cooperating with me. There we go. Now, you may ask why bother to change tunings, and what's the point of that? The point is to make your left hand easier and to achieve certain effects that you can't achieve in standard tuning. So the first tune, in fact, that we're going to play, I'll mention the two tunes we're going to play. The first one is called Reuben Oh Ruben, and it's from the playing of a man named Emery Arthur, who was from Kentucky. He was the first person to record the song Man of Constant Sorrow, which is a pretty famous old-time and bluegrass song. And Reuben, as you may know if you listen to old-time music or if you play the banjo, is a very common banjo tune. And it's usually played on the banjo in a tuning very much like this open D tuning. So it's a version of a banjo song. And then the second one that we'll do after that is called Sioux Cow, and that's from the playing of Bo Carter, who was a Mississippi blues man. And that tune is more of a children's song, really. It's not really a blues song. It's a little more old-timey than a lot of his material. We'll get into that in a little bit. So we're in our open D tuning. We're going to do Reuben first, then I'll show you some chords. You don't actually need any chords to play Reuben. All of the fretting, all of the left-hand work of this tune is going to be done on the third string, and the only notes you're going to fret are 3 and 2. Other than that, everything's done with the open strings. One other thing I forgot to mention is there is tablature for both of the tunes in this lesson. There'll be a link in the comments. And one thing I would suggest is go through the lesson first before you go with the tab. The tab should be a guide. Watch what I'm doing first so that it makes sense what's happening in the tablature, and then go back to the tab to refresh your memory. But there will be tablature for both of these tunes. With Reuben, nothing is going to happen with either the 5th or 6th strings in this particular song. Everything you're going to do is up on the top 4 strings, which makes it even more like a banjo. Of course, the bottom strings will resonate a little bit, and if you hit them, it's no big deal. And the right hand in this tune, you're only going to need these 2 fingers for, and it's thumb lead, and it's Carter family style. If you're familiar with Maybelle Carter's guitar playing, you're going to pick the melody out with your thumb on one of the bass strings, which isn't quite in the bass in this because it's the 4th and 3rd strings, but and then you're going to strum back and forth with your index finger, and I will show that to you right now. The main rhythm of this song is going to be, at its simplest, you're going to pick a melody note. I'm going to play the 4th string, and then brush down with the back of your nail on the top 3 or 2 strings, doesn't really matter, just like that. Notice I'm not playing anything in the left hand. That's the main rhythm of the song, and I think I better play a little bit of it for you, and then we'll get into how to play it and the other things you do with your finger. But let me give you a bit of Reuben Oh Ruben. You can look this song up on YouTube and listen to it on the original recording. But it goes like this. Reuben, where you been so long? I've been to the east and I've been to the west, been all around this old world. I've been to the river and I've been baptized, ready for my hole in the ground. If you say so, honey, I'll railroad no more. I'll sidetrack my train and go home. And that's how it goes. When you listen to the original record, if you have it on CD or on YouTube, you will find that Arthur is tuned an entire step flat of where we are now, putting him in the key of C. But he is in this tuning. You would just reduce. You'd have to tune down an entire step, 2 frets, to get to where he is on the record. So just keep that in mind. If you want to match where he is on the record, I would start with your 4th string, match where he's at, just tune it down till it matches, and then go through the steps that I did at the beginning of this video to match up these 2 strings, these 2, and then you'd have to figure out the other ones. You can use your tuner also, but there is an open C tuning for guitar that has different intervals, but that's not what he's in. He's in open D, which is sometimes called, just to confuse you with another term, it's sometimes called Sevastopol or Vastapol tuning, because of a tune called the Siege of Sevastopol that was played out of this tuning in the late 1800s. There's another open tuning called G tuning, which is called Spanish tuning because of a tune called Spanish Fandango. These folk terms get associated with various tunings, and they stick. So if you ever hear somebody talk about Vastapol or Vastapol tuning, they're talking about open D. So Reuben, again, the rhythm to start with, thumb on the 4th string and brush down. There's 3 different licks you can do with your index finger in this. You can either brush down once, or you can brush down and then back up again. Or you can, and this is the official Carter family lick, you can pick with the thumb, brush up with the index finger, down with the index finger, and then back up, which is this. Whoops. That's the most difficult of the 3. When you do it fast, you almost don't hear that first brush up, but it's there, and you want to accent the down brush. And I switch back and forth between these 3 as we play the tune. I'm going to play through the way I have it written on the tab, and I'll try to play it slow, and I'll try to play it the way I have it written on the tab. Instead of calling out the notes, just watch my left hand. Here's the only notes that are being played are either the 3rd fret of the 3rd string, 2nd fret of the 3rd string, the open 3rd string, and the open 4th string. Now, the first time I go through, I try to do it with no pull-offs, and then the second time I've added in the tab, I've added some hammer-ons and pull-offs. You can, instead of hammering on, you can slide. You're going to have too much trouble with the left hand of this tune. So let me play through the tab kind of slow. I'll play it at a couple of different speeds, but let me start with it slow and take you through it. Try to play along if you can. times through the tab, and you'll notice I've written it in the tab and played it now just with the down and up brush, like that. And again, go through the tab and try it with just the down brush, which would be not very interesting to do that all the way through, but to add some emphasis if you do that for a note or two at a time, that's what it would sound like. And then with the triple brush, that's about all there is to Reuben Oh Ruben. And if you just mess around with it, when you play it on the banjo too, there's all kinds of ornamentation that you can do. I don't think he ever plays it through the same way twice on the record. I know when I sing it, especially, and I'm playing behind my voice, I don't do it the same way each time I go through, and there's a surprising amount that you can do with just hammer-ons on one string. What I'm doing there is I'm playing the second fret and then hammering on from the second to third fret. You can even put a pull-off in there if you want. So there's quite a bit you can do with the left hand of that. And that is Reuben Oh Ruben. You'll have in the tablature also the complete lyrics of the tune. And hope you enjoy that. And we'll move on to the next section of this video, and I'm going to show you for the next tune. You're going to need to know 3 chords for Sukau, and the chords are pretty easy. Let me just again talk about open tuning for a second. 2 ways you can make chords in this, and this applies a lot if you're playing with a slide, because you can slide and the bar will go across the strings. If you're in an open tuning, this is D, a D chord, and count up fret by fret. So here's D sharp, E, F, F sharp, and G. I'm just barring across all 6 strings. You can make a G chord at the 5th fret, and then 2 frets up, that's your 4 chord. You have the 1 chord, the 4 chord, if you know music theory with the 1 and 4. I'm not going to get too deep into that. And then the 5 chord would be, here's G and G sharp and A at the 7th fret. So that's one way you can make chords. It's a little cumbersome, but if you happen to be ever playing with a slide, you can make a nice solid chord by just doing it at those frets. The chords we're going to be using for Sukau, also G and A chords, are going to be made down here near the nut. And there's a sheet in the tablature that shows you the main chords in both open D and open G tuning. You get the bonus of open G because I'm too lazy to make a separate sheet. So you get G and D on the same one. Here's your open chord. If you ever want to make a D7th chord, it will be the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. I gotta move my mouse here to get my screen back to make sure I'm still recording here. Alright, that's your D7th. Your G chord sounds like this, and it's fretted like this. It's the 2nd fret of the 5th string, the open 4th string, 1st fret of the 3rd string, and the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. And you want to try to avoid, even though they're part of the chord, try to avoid the 6th string because it'll muddy the sound in the bass. Try to start on the 5th string. And it's one of the sort of telltale sounds of this tuning, that this G chord does not have its root in the bass. It doesn't have a G note in the bass. The G note would be here, and you're in fact playing a B note. So it makes a kind of a distinctive sound. And you can walk up to that chord also by going open, first, second fret on the 5th string. And there's a tune that Elizabeth Cotten plays called Vastapol, in the name of the tuning, where practically the whole tune is built around that walk up. So there's your G chord, and I'm fretting it with the middle finger, index, and ring finger. And then your A chord, your 5 chord, is also pretty easy to make. It is your open 5th string. It is the 2nd fret of the 4th string, the 1st fret again of the 3rd string, the open 5th string, and then the 2nd fret of the 1st string. And that's your A chord, A7th, I believe it is. And a lot of times, especially in the tune that we're about to play, Sukow, you can forget about this top note on the 1st string and just play these two. Just play the 4th and 3rd string, 2nd fret and 1st fret. And you don't want to strum the 6th string. It's not part of this chord. The root is the open 5th string. So here are our 3 chords once again. You have an open D chord. Your G chord is here. And your A chord is here or here. And those are your 3 chords for this tuning. And the 3 chords we're going to be using in this song, Sukow. Now the right hand on this is going to be, if you've never fingerpicked before, this is going to be where the complication comes in this, because there are basically 2 types of old-time fingerpicking. This is a gross simplification, but bear with me on this. There's alternating bass fingerpicking, where you are taking your thumb and keeping a beat by alternating the bass. On this case, I'm going the 6th and 4th string, and sort of strumming almost a chord with that 2nd note. That's alternating bass. Then there's what's called monotonic, one-tone bass. It has a few different names. And that's where you just keep time by playing one string over and over again. And that is your bass. That's what we're going to be doing for this tune, Sukow. Just when you see me play it, just keep in mind, I'm only staying on one string for the bass. There are different styles of doing that. If you've listened to people like Mance Lipscomb or Merle Travis, they play with a thumb pick, they mute the strings, and they get a very sort of dead sound with the bass. But that's not what Bill Carter did. He articulates the bass, and you can hear it ring out, and it's sort of important for this tune. Let me play a little bit of Sukow, and again, this is on YouTube. It's a bit of a children's song. When you hear the original recording, there's a word in it that might surprise you to be in a children's song, but keep in mind that A, Bo Carter is singing about a cow, and B, he specialized in double entendre songs. He recorded hundreds of them, so even in this semi-innocent little children's ditty, a little piece of semi-ribald comedy comes into play, which I'm not going to repeat. It's pretty PG. Here we go. This is Sukow, and I'm not really playing it the way that the tablature goes. In this case, I'll just play it, a couple of verses of it, so you get the idea. Sukow, 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 you better not kick, I'll break your leg with a stick. Oh, little boy, who made your britches? Mama cut 'em out and daddy did the stitches. Sioux cow, you better not kick, I'll break your leg with a stick. Little girl, who made your dress? Mama cut it out and daddy done the rest. Sioux cow, you better not kick, I'll break your leg with a stick. So there's a little bit of Sioux cow for you. In my right hand, if you can't see what fingers I'm using, and I'll try to move my hand when I'm teaching it, I am only using these 3 fingers on my right hand. You'll see this finger moving along, but it's not picking anything. It just likes to tag along. That's how my hand is built. Tags along with my middle finger. Okay, so let me talk about Sioux cow just a bit and give you, if you haven't fingerpicked before, give you some tips on how to maybe get started. The trick, of course, is to make it so that you can do that independent bass with your thumb while your fingers are playing melody. I'm going to go through and show you a couple of ways to just get into the song and maybe sing it. You're not going to be playing any melody. The bass is just 4 notes. It's in 4/4 time. You're going to be playing 4 bass notes per measure. I also mentioned the tune starts on the 5 chord, on the A chord. You're in the key of D. So you're going to start with this chord that we already talked about, 2nd fret, 4th string, 1st fret of the 3rd string. And here's what I would suggest to start with. Just start with the thumb and do a few passes with just the thumb. Hold the chord down, because instead of playing just a single note, try to dig in just a little bit so that you're almost strumming, and you'll pick up a little bit of that chord. And just go through. Here's the structure of the song. You have the A chord, Sioux cow, and then the D chord, Sioux cow, and I'm playing on the 6th string now. Back to the A chord, Sioux cow, and the 1 chord, the D chord, back on the 6th string, and then the G chord for 1 measure, the D chord for 1 measure, and then the A, and back to the D. A, little boy, who made your breeches? D. Bum, 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 bum. Back to the A. Daddy cut them out, Mama did the stitches. G. Sioux cow, you better not kick, I'll break your leg with a stick. Oh, Sioux cow. D and A, Sioux cow, D, Sioux cow, and the G, D, A, D. So that's a way to get started with it, and I don't think that will give you too much trouble. And then add your fingers in, say, on the beat. This is an open tuning, so nothing you do is going to sound too terrible. So try to add a couple of, just picking up like a pin. You're going to pinch 2 strings. It doesn't matter whether it's the top 2 or the 2nd and 3rd string. And as you go through, try to just play those 2 fingers at the same time as you hit a thumb note, like this. Don't do it all 4 beats, but do a couple of them. try to do that on the beat. Then, and this is going to be a little bit more difficult, try to do it with playing those same pinches, but playing them off the beat. And let me show you what I mean. Little boy, who made your britches? Mama cut 'em out and Daddy did the stitches. Sue cat, better not kick, I'll break your leg with a stick. So try that a few times. And while I'm singing, generally when I play this tune, I don't really do much more than those little off the beat and on the beat pinches. It's in between the singing that I fill in with these little licks, which make up the melody of the tune and are written down in the tablature. So I think if you get to the point where you can switch between those on the beat pinches and the off the beat ones, and you can go back and forth between those like this. It would help if I could do it. That's on, off, off, on, off, on. Try to do that. Practice with just the structure of the tune. Sing it to yourself, and eventually you'll be ready to crack the melody. And my apologies if most of the people watching this already know how to finger pick. You hopefully will have skipped ahead to the part I'm going to do next, where I take you through the tablature and show you how that works. There's nothing fretted above the 3rd fret in this tune. And with the exception of one note, everything's either on the 3rd or 2nd fret. Most of it on the 1st string and the 2nd string, and they're very similar licks. I'm going to play through the tab, and this is, I will tell you in advance, is a bit of a challenge for me to play the tab slowly and to keep playing it slowly. It's very easy to rush on this. There's something about this particular tune that really wants to pick up speed, and I think if you listen to the original record, he picks up speed quite a bit as he goes through it. But I'm going to play through the tab as slow as I can. The fingering I generally use, you can use your ring and I'm trying to think here. I think I would use my pinky and ring finger, because you're holding this chord down for a lot of that part, and you have these 2 fingers free. You could use just your ring finger, I think, if you wanted to. And on the D chord, you could use your index and middle finger. I tend to just, on the D part, I tend to use my pinky and middle finger for these 3rd and 2nd fret notes. Whatever is comfortable for you and works. There's no rules on this, but try not to move your hand around too much, just for economy of motion. Here's how it goes very slowly. That's not quite right, but it's close enough. There's your G chord. That's the tab through fairly slowly. One little tricky bit on that is at the very end. The hardest part is the turnaround, where you're coming off that pull off, which goes like that part. And then there you hammer on to this 5 chord. And you get that melody note. So that the note, the open string that comes before the hammer on is before you hit the bass string for the 5 chord. You kind of come in, you hammer onto the chord as you hit the open string of the 5th string. And that last note, that low D note, is hit with the index finger, not with the thumb. That's one advantage of this, where you're doing the solid bass. You can play with your index finger on these lower strings. In alternating bass finger picking, your index finger would almost never hit that low D string. Let me play through the tab one more time, just a little bit faster. And let's see, what are some other things I want to mention? All the notes on the 3rd fret, you can bend them just a little bit, especially the one on the 1st string. You don't want to go crazy, but a little push there is not going to hurt. Like this part, Sukal, this part. Oh, I exaggerated that too much. Sukal. I just pushed that a little bit. You can even push that one. And those, as you're singing it, those notes in the melody are really there in between your singing. Little boy, who made your breeches? Mama cut 'em out and Daddy did the stitches. Sue cow, you better not kick. I'll break your leg with a stick. And except for the turnaround, you're really not playing much while you're singing. You're just doing these beats and maybe some little off the beat plucks. This is a tune I really, really enjoy playing, and I hope you do too. And if you have any questions about it, please either leave them in the comments, or you can hit me up on Facebook, Christopher Berry. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Hopefully the tab will help you out to get through this tune. I think that really the trickiest bit is just learning that monotonic bass. And even if you have finger picked the alternating bass, it takes a little while to get used to that single note one. It's worth using because many, many blues players used it. Robert Johnson, Mance Lipscomb. It's in a lot of Texas and Mississippi blues especially, and it will really help you to be able to switch between those two techniques. One other little thing I will mention in this tune is when you listen to the original record, he starts on the turnaround on the 4 chord. I gotta move my mouse again so I can see what I'm doing. All right. And he starts on the turnaround, and he plays one thing that he only does at the very beginning. He doesn't play it while he's singing, but I'll just show it to you real quick. He starts and he moves this entire 4 chord down a fret and plays it at the 1st fret, and it sounds like this. That's how he starts the tune off. I'll do that again. One more time. Just if you're wondering what he does there. All right, I think that is that's enough from me. I hope you enjoyed both of these tunes, Reuben and Sukal. And again, feel free to hit me up with any questions. I think all of these workshops and concerts have a virtual tip jar. and I will solicit for tips, especially because all the tips that I'm getting are going to go right back into the festival this time. They need the donations. I want to make sure that there's a 50th festival. So if you enjoyed this, please tip, and again, it will help to ensure that we can all get together next year in October and enjoy ourselves in person and jam. Hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a great rest of the festival, and everybody stay safe and healthy. Thanks.